Shall I start?
Yes, yes, please.
So, good evening, one and all. I welcome Chairman of today's program, Honorable Vice Chancellor Dr. A.M. Paturkar Sir, Maharashtra Animal and Fishery Science University, Nagpur. On behalf of the university as well as institute, I welcome today's chief guest, Dr. Professor M.R. Sasyendranath Sir, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Kerala Veterinary and Animal Sciences University, Kerala. I welcome today's guest of honor, Professor Dr. A.P. Somkovar Sir, Director of Instruction and Dean, MAPSU Nagpur. I welcome Professor Dr. N.V. Kurkure Sir, Director of Research, MAPSU Nagpur, and Professor Dr. V.D. Iyer Sir, Director of Extension and Training, MAPSU Nagpur. So on behalf of the organizing committee as well as MAPSU Nagpur, PJIS Akola, I welcome the technical team of Mr. Karunanidhi Sir, Senior Vice President, Sales and Marketing, Alembic Pharma Limited, and all the participants from throughout the globe for this today's international webinar on lumpy skin disease in bovine. So for this today's webinar, all we know that recent outbreak of lumpy skin disease has been reported in most of the states in India as well as in other countries also. To disseminate the recent updates in the prevention and therapeutic management of disease at global level as well as at national level, and considering this importance at present situation, the international webinar has been organized on the topic lumpy skin disease in bovine, its therapeutic management. Now, I request our Dean and DI, Honorable A.P. Somkovar Sir, to give his welcome address for this today's webinar.
Thank you, Dr. Ingole. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Good evening to all of you, honorable dignitaries through this webinar. First of all, I would like to welcome chief guest of today's function, Honorable Vice Chancellor M.R. Sasyendranath Sir, for this webinar, Kerala Veterinary Animal Sciences University. Welcome, sir. Then I also welcome Director of Research, Dr. Kurkure, for this webinar. At the same time, because of some busy schedule actually, preoccupied or as is on time actually, he got some appointment. So our Honorable Vice Chancellor, he could not be present for this, otherwise he would have been in the chair. So I welcome him also in his absence. I also welcome Director of Extension, Dr. V.D. Iyer from MAPSU, sir. And I also welcome Dr. Bikani, who is hosting Associate Dean of this, and he was also used to be a speaker for this webinar. His introduction is planned later on. Sir, just I would like to say a few words about the university. Our university established in the year 2000. Under this university, we are having total 10 colleges of 3 faculties. We are having veterinary faculty, dairy faculty, and fishery faculty, as your case, sir. Here we are having 5 veterinary colleges imparting undergraduate and postgraduate training, and 1 PGIVA, that is Postgraduate Institute at Akola, who has organized this webinar today, who is headed by Dr. Bikane sir as an associate dean. Apart from this, we are having 2 fishery colleges and 2 dairy colleges. They were established in the year 2006. One was earlier and one later on. And we are also having more than 100 affiliated diploma school. These are affiliated diploma school with us. For this diploma school activity, 10th pass students, they are taking admission, and this is 2-year diploma school across the Maharashtra. Recently, just I am proud to say that the university has got 3 Krishi Vigyan Kendras from government, and most probably this year we were going to be started but because of this COVID situation, actually there was some problem, but we have initiated activity at all the three places, but it is at a little bit slow rate, but hope that we will be excel in near future. We are working on that, sir. So together we are having this infrastructure, we can say the Maharashtra state, and we are doing well. As you know, sir, part of university teaching research as extension, we are working on the, we are doing that. To say about our intake capacity for the veterinarians, it is around 388 in all the 5 colleges. And apart from these postgraduate and doctorate students, they are also taking admission as per the seats available and as per the need of the day. So they are taking admission. And then in fishery and dairy technology, in fishery, we are having undergraduate at this moment, and we are trying for the postgraduate in near future couple of years. Most probably we may be starting postgraduate program in couple of disciplines under their faculty. In dairy technology also, in 2 or 3 subjects we have initiated this postgraduate program. In 2 or 3 disciplines we have initiated, and next we will be starting in due course of time. So this is regarding teaching part. We are going with a speed, and we are trying to come up with the time, but anyway it is okay. And then regarding research, we are having various research projects, and we are having with the director of research, Dr. Yanvi Kurkure. So it is better that he will be telling at the last invalidatory function also regarding research activity. So I won't interfere in his area, but at the same time, as a part of extension, we are there, we are doing extension, and as a part of that, this webinar is there. For these participants, just I would like to introduce today's guest, Honorable Dr. Professor M.R. Sachindranath sir, who is the Vice Chancellor of Kerala Veterinary and Animal Sciences University. So he is having a vast experience of more than 39 years with him. He has worked in various capacity, right from professor teaching and other experiences. When I gone through this biodata, actually, it is a very big, and it is very, I can't say it is possible to just state within a short time, but just I will enlighten. He has a very
Sir, you have been muted.
Yeah, it is okay.
Okay, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Sorry for that. Yeah. So he is having 39 years of experience, and he has more than 12 years of service as a professor at UGC and ICR level. Then he has been also there in abroad. He has worked for a couple of years in abroad in Libya. Then field of extension activities. He has vast experience of extension activities to his credit, and being a person of medicine, various camps and lectures and various activities, a huge number. He has done lot of extension activities apart from his radio talks and popular article, etc. He has published more than 100 research papers in various journals. He has having, to his credit, about 50 uh, postgraduate students he has guided, doctor as well as master's degree level. And then regarding he has various awards also he could bag. So out of that, just I would like to name few. Best award from Faculty of Veterinary Science, Kerala Agriculture University, Kerala. Then Bharat Ratna Dr. C. Subramaniam Award for Outstanding Teacher for biennial 2004-5 for his excellent teaching field in the field of animal health. Then he has been awarded as a fellow from his society. Best research article award also he got. Then with the number of projects, he has completed various projects, about 8 to 10 projects he has completed, his research project he has completed from various agencies, and he has participated. So need not to say that he must have participated in so many conference, symposium, all these things. Needless to say that. And then uh, during this graduation and all other levels also, he found to be a graduate, post-graduate, and other level rank holder student that time. So, sir, for this webinar, I welcome you all, Maharashtra Animal and Fisheries Sciences University. Thank you for accepting our invitation, sir. I welcome you. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Professor A.P. Somkar sir, Honorable Director of Instruction and Dean MAPSU Nagpur for your introductory remark and introducing our chief guest for today's webinar, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor M.R. Sasendranath, Kerala Veterinary and Animal Sciences University, Kerala. Thank you, sir, for giving introductory remark as well as the your gracious presence will boost the our energy. Thank you so much. Now, I request our chief guest, Professor Dr. M.R. Sasendranath, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Kerala Veterinary and Animal Sciences University, Kerala, for his chief guest address to the participant of this international webinar. Sir, please.
Thank you very much. Professor Colonel A.M. Paturkar, Honorable Vice Chancellor of MAPSU, Professor A.P. Somkuvar, DID, Professor M.E. Kurkure, Director of Research, Professor V.D. Ahar, Director of Extension, today's speaker, Dr. A.U. Bikane, Associate Dean, PGIVIS, Kola, and President VIPM, Dr. Inkawal, Mr. Karunanidhi, Senior Vice President of Olympic, all other dignitaries and participants. First of all, good evening to each and every one of you. Let me express my gratitude and thanks to each and every one of you for inviting me for attending this international webinar on LSD. Actually, I consider this as an honor to me, provided by the MAPSU. When Dr. Bikane called me day before yesterday about this program, I was really wondered why so many experts are there in the northern side, but because of our close connection with Dr. Bikane as well as all other university officers of MAPSU, and I am having many friends from MAPSU, so many colleagues from MAPSU who did their postgraduate at Tanuvas. We were together. So I got so many connections with MAPSU. So I thought this is a good opportunity to talk to you or to be with you and attend this webinar. Of course, on an important topic, on emerging disease. Of course, it has been reported from all over the India. And now we all know that we all are passing through a very difficult situation of pandemic COVID-19. And since March 9, this year, March onwards, lockdown has come and all our activities everywhere was stalled. Education, our major education, research and extension activities stalled. And we all are, in one way we can say that we all are forced to behind our doors. And though we are unlocking slowly, but it will take another few more months or even up to a year to become the old situation. And as far as in Kerala, you may be remembering that all of you may be knowing that it was the first case of COVID was reported from Kerala. A medical student from Wuhan, from Kerala, has come here with the disease, and very carefully we handled. And after that treatment, she was cured and sent back home. And we were maintaining a very good control measures over this disease. But unfortunately, now our natives from abroad have come back, and the natives from other states have come back. So here also the disease incidence has gone up. Now it is beyond our control, and the social transmission is occurring, and daily huge number of cases are coming up, and we are also somehow managing. That's all. So what I wanted to say, because of this COVID conditions, we were forced to start all our activities, and the physical meeting, physical classes, all were stalled, and even this type of seminars, we made in one way, we can say that we must be grateful to pandemic COVID-19, because of this underutilized platform, online platform, we were not using it properly. Now, because of this, we were forced to use, and once we started using, we found that it is the most effective manner. Now, I can see nearly 1,000 participants are participating in this webinar itself. So that shows that from a very effective method of transmission of our knowledge to the field as well as to wherever the farmers are. And so we have made this webinar as one of our method. And in future, even after the COVID situation, we will be utilizing this platform very effectively for our all extension activities, seminars and all. And our university also started delivering different types of webinars since April onwards. And now different types of international, national webinars are being conducted. And of course, we will in future, as a guidelines, and of course, new education policy all have come, but as a policy, we will have a part of our teaching must be online. So it must be a blended form, the classroom teaching as well as practical experiential field, as well as we can have the online teaching also. So it will be a blended platform. So COVID pandemic has made us to reach this, understand this, and to initiate webinars of different types. And for the information of the participants, I can also give a small narrative about our Kerala Veterinary and Animal Sciences University. Being Vice Chancellor, it must be the first priority, my prioritized area. This university was established in 2011 and separated, we bifurcated from Kerala Agriculture University as a Kerala Fisheries and Oceanic Studies University at Cochin, and Veterinary and Animal Sciences University at Wayanad, a high range area district, and Kerala Agriculture University, of course, is remaining. So with two colleges, we start, two colleges and 5 campuses. And at this moment, we have 8 colleges in this 5 campus. Of course, campus we could not increase in number because of the financial problem to the government. And we have 2 veterinary colleges, and so many students from Maharashtra and the different parts of the India are studying here. And we have 4 dairy science college, dairy science and technology college, and we have 1 avian science and management college. So in total, we have 8 colleges, and nearly we were having at the time of our trifurcation, we were having around 800 students in different, starting from doctorate to certificate and skill training to that level. But of course, we are not having any diploma institute. We give the diploma courses, offer the diploma courses in our colleges itself. And as sir mentioned, we are not having any KVKs also. So all the KVKs are retained in the Kerala Agriculture University. So we are trying for that. And our students, they are all happy for the timing. But at this moment, as all you know, all of you are suffering from that because they want this practical training. So to get the practical training for veterinary students, we are sending them to the animal hospital department to nearest hospital, and of course they are going there and attending. But it will not be a substitute for our real training in our colleges and all. And dairy plant, of course, the dairy, we have university dairy plant we have, as well as we have one internationally recognized meat technology unit also in our campus. And we are producing nearly 670 byproducts, value-added products from our meat plant, likewise from dairy plant. So we give dairy technology students training, hands-on training there. And of course, one unique college, Aviation Science and Management, Business Management College is there at one of our campus, and we are offering a course on a BSc degree in poultry production and business management. And that is also being received well by our students, and they are going and getting well opportunities outside in India as well as outside. No, I don't want to. So in short, we at this moment, though the major functions are halted, and we are also giving online classes and the online webinars and online examination also to certain online Viva OC and managing somehow and following the guidelines from the ICF. I don't want to take much time for this. And Dr. Bikane is giving a very good topic, a lecture on good topic on lumpy skin disease. And this lumpy skin disease in 2019 November we started getting. And by seeing the symptoms and all, we suspected LSD, and we sent the material to the Bhopal High Security Lab, and they confirmed it. And then soon this disease spread all over Kerala, and even our university farm animals were also suffering from this. And of course, they didn't yield much, they didn't affect much milk production, and clinical, the fever, few days, then some of it, and nasal discharge, that's all. Some lymphadenopathy and all. Then eruptions all over the body were there, and this was treated symptomatically, as well as flight control method were adopted in and around the farms. And of course, we vaccinated all our animals with the Capripox vaccine from the Karnataka, and we could control it. But after that also, here and there, sporadic outbreaks are occurring in all our Kerala. And Dr. Bikane will be giving us a very good talk on that. We will hear that and listen to that. And once again, I wish thanks. I express my thanks and gratitude to MAFSU and inviting all of you to Kerala Veterinary and Animal Sciences University after the COVID period. I wish all success for this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. On behalf of the MAPSU, I am very much thankful for accepting our invitation and addressing the international gathering for this today's very important topic. Thank you so much, sir. Now, as our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. A.M. Paturkar, sir, he is occupied with his some other work, so he will not be here. This is the chairman address or presidential address. So I request Mr. Karunanidhi sir, Senior Vice President Sales and Marketing, Alembic Pharma Limited, Mumbai, to introduce our today's speaker and start this webinar session. Mr. P. Karunanidhi sir, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Dr. Ingwale. We at Alembic feel very happy and proud to be part of this program, an international webinar on lumpy skin disease, which is being conducted by Alembic as in collaboration with Maharashtra Animal and Fishery Science University, Nagpur. So at this moment, I would like to introduce the speaker, Dr. Anil Uddhavrao Bikane, Associate Dean of Postgraduate Institute of Veterinary and Animal Science, Akola, and he is also a president of Veterinary Internal and Preventive Medicine Society. He is an eminent academician, passionate to improve animal health through his clinical experience and various extension activities. He also does social work for Jeevala Foundation and Green Army, Udgir. Dr. Bikane, born on June 10th, 1965 in Ahmedpur district, Latur, Maharashtra. He did his graduation in 1987 and post-graduation in 1989 from the College of Veterinary and Animal Sciences, Marathwada Agriculture University, Parbhani. He got a certificate of merit for securing highest mark in MUSC. So immediately after his post-graduation, he has started his career as a veterinary officer in Parbhani Veterinary College in the year of 1989. Because of his interest for teaching and research activity, he has joined as an assistant professor in Agriculture College, Latur in 1991. Further, he was shifted to Veterinary College, Udgir as an assistant professor. He got promoted as an associate professor in the year of 2002. And post that, he got promoted as a professor in the year of 2009. Since 2016, he is University Head for Clinical Medicine in Maharashtra Animal and Fishery Science University, Nagpur. Recently, that is in last month, he has been promoted as an Associate Dean of Postgraduate Institute of Veterinary and Animal Sciences of Akola campus, which belongs to Maharashtra Animal and Fishery Science University, Maharashtra. Dr. Bikane has published more than 211 research papers in international and national journals. Along with more than 173 popular articles, he also had 25 radio talks and 17 TV talks to his credit. He has delivered lectures to farmers in 502 occasions and for veterinarians 101 occasions, and he also has organized 425 animal health camps. So he has been recognized at international level by New York Academy of Sciences. He is also listed in all the editions of Who is Who in the World, published by Who is Who in America since 1997. His biography also appeared in Outstanding People of 20th Century, published by International Biographical Center, Cambridge, England. He has received various awards, almost 31 prestigious awards and honors for his research and extension activities, which include recipient of Best Teacher Award in 2008, Best Research Scholar Award in 2009, and Best Extension Worker Award in 2016 from Maharashtra Animal and Fishery Science University, Nagpur. He also received 3 national prestigious gold medal from Gandhi A. Sastry in 2002, DC Blood in 2008, and Gorakshak Mandli Gold Medal in 2014. He also has authored 7 books, edited 3 booklets on animal science and veterinary practices. He is also actively working as a convener in Board of Studies in Agriculture and Animal Sciences, Maharashtra State Board Secondary and Higher Secondary Education, Pune. He has dedicated his 30-year service to establish this Udagiri Veterinary College, and he has tirelessly, selflessly worked for the betterment of the farmers in his 30 years of service. He always advises the farmer to bring the animal to the college so that the animal can get a proper treatment. Along with that, his student can get a first-hand knowledge, clinical knowledge. Recently, he has delivered a lecture to the Maharashtra farmers in Marathi, how to prevent lumpy skin disease in animals, in which 4,000 farmers participated. Alembic was part of the program. So we have webcasted that program. In that, 4,000 farmers joined and participated in that program. So Dr. Bikane's main aim is to make the farmers as an entrepreneur in dairy and poultry and goat farming. So we have such a wonderful, knowledgeable speaker today to enlighten our knowledge and give some practical advice in preventing and treating lumpy skin disease in the need of the hour. So thank you very much, and over to Dr. Bikane sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for introducing the speaker. And now I request our respected Associate Dean A. Bikane sir to deliver this webinar. Dr. Bikane sir, please.
Thank you, Mr. Karunanidhi, Vice President Alembic Pharmaceuticals, for introducing me. But at the outset, I would like to extend thanks to Honorable Vice Chancellor of Kerala Veterinary and Animal Sciences University and our senior colleague, renowned physician, best research worker, and a dynamic administrator, Dr. M.R. Shashindranath sir. I thank on behalf of MAPSU as well as PJS Akola. Sir, you accepted our invitation with a short notice and you made it convenient to participate in this seminar. So really, I'm very much thankful to you, sir. I have been associated with you as a man of medicine for the last several years. And I know you since 30 years. I had been with you for attending one of the training program at Chennai. Since then, we are very much associated, and we have also participated in different seminars and conferences. And Dr. Shashindranath sir used to deliver the lectures on a lead papers. So such a great personality spared his time, valuable time, for inaugural session of this webinar. Sir has rightly pointed out that during COVID, definitely there was a panic amongst the people, and the actual offline teaching stopped, seminars, conferences, they could not be held. But really this COVID has given us opportunity, and for arranging webinars, online trainings, and a part of that, today the MOPSU has organized such a wonderful webinar in which 1,000 veterinarians from India, as well as 5 to 6 other countries, they are participating. We all know that this LSD is really a big problem for our country for the last 1 year. And actually the incidence of LSD increased with this increase during this COVID period. So the farmers, they are facing two problems. One side the COVID problem, and the another side this LSD. And therefore MOPSU is creating awareness amongst the farmers as well as the field veterinarians for the last 4 or 5 months. We have published popular articles in the state level diaries and journals. We have given radio talks and TV talks. We have created awareness amongst the masses. For the farmers, we have organized program. Earlier also, I delivered one webinar, national level webinar in the month of July. But on request from the field veterinarians, we have organized this second national. Now it has become an international webinar. And so the screen is visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes. I also thank Honorable Dean Sir, Director of Research and Director of Extension, for participating in this seminar, and Honorable Vice Chancellor for guiding us to arrange this seminar. So now I will start with my actual presentation on diagnostic and therapeutic approach for the lumpy skin disease in bovine. So lumpy skin disease is endemic in African continent for the last 91 years. It was first time recorded in Zambia in 1929, and later on it spread to some 2 or 3 neighboring countries, but it remained endemic to the Africa up to 1988. After 1988, it started spreading to the Middle East countries, and after 2012, it spread to the European countries. And in 2018-19, now from Europe, it came to Asia. Last year, in July, the outbreak of LSD was recorded in Bangladesh, and it was confirmed in the month of September. From Bangladesh, it came to India, and in Orissa, for the first time, this outbreak was recorded in the month of August, and it was confirmed and notified by Government of India in the month of November. Even in China, the outbreak occurred during the month of July, August last year, and even this year also cases have been reported. The country which is very adjacent to India is also now facing the outbreaks of this LSD. And Nepal, just in the month of August 2020, the outbreak of LSD has been recorded. The first report, that is from Mayurbhanj district, Mayurbhanj and Bhadrak district of Odisha, and then the disease spread to the different states of our country. And Honorable Vice Chancellor sir told that even Kerala is facing this problem. So from Orissa, it spread to Jharkhand, West Bengal, Chhattisgarh, then Telangana. In month of January, it was in the Telangana. Then it spread to Andhra Pradesh. And I think in the month of May, June, it was confirmed in the Kerala. And in Maharashtra also, in the month of April, Karnataka and Maharashtra, the outbreaks, they were recorded. And even Maharashtra is also facing the same problem for the last 5 to 6 months. More than 1 lakh cases that have been reported even from our state. As regards the epidemiology of this disease has been recorded in the cattle. Buffaloes are also susceptible to some extent, but very rare cases of LSD have been recorded in buffaloes. As far as my personal experience is concerned, the occurrence of this disease in buffalo is very, very rare. So maybe not more than 0.1 or 0.2%. Sheep and goats are unaffected. And this disease is considered as a very host specific. It has not been reported in wild ruminants. So only cattle, they are susceptible. To some extent, buffaloes are susceptible. And the role of these water buffaloes or Bibulus bibalis in the epidemiology of LSD still remains unclear. Whether buffaloes can spread this disease to cattle or not, that is questionable. This disease has not reported in the human beings. As per OI, 30th July, the disease has not been recorded in human beings. But I have come across with one report from Egypt indicating involvement of these human beings. But as far as that report is concerned, I'm of the opinion that it was not a primarily LSD and it was a co-infection with the herpes virus. Whatever signs they have been reported by that author, that is the lone report in the last 100 years. So all other scientists, all the organizations, scientific organizations, they are of the opinion that this disease is not zoonotic in nature. Human beings are not affected by this disease. As regards the breed-wise incidence is concerned, the crossbreds and the exotic animals, they are susceptible, they are more susceptible to this disease. But surprisingly, in India, the disease has been recorded on a larger scale in native animals, indigenous animals. Even in our state of Maharashtra, in Marathwada and Vidarbha, we have recorded a large number of cases in case of Indian or indigenous cattle. Crossbreds, they were found to be less affected. But the area in which the disease is occurring, so in that particular area, crossbred population is bigger. Whatever crossbred they were affected, even from Marathwada, Vidarbha, and even the other regions of country, they were found to be severely affected. In nutshell, I would like to share that exotic and crossbred animals, they are more susceptible than indigenous animals. Particularly, the severity of the disease is more in exotic or crossbred cattle as compared to the Indian cattle. All age groups of the cattle, they are susceptible to LSD, but the disease is always more severe in case of the newborn cows, young cows. There is no sex predilection. The cases are occurring in bullocks as well as cows. But in general, the disease is more severe in case of lactating animals. Many field veterinarians, they have reported that the course of the disease is longer and the severity of the disease is more in lactating animals as well as the young calves. Disease occurs throughout the year. India is experiencing the disease for the last 1 year, since August to this September. But the disease incidence is high during the rainy season, followed by summer, and least during the winter. And this can be very well correlated with the hot and humid climate, which is favorable for the growth and multiplication of the parasites, vectors during the rainy season, followed by the summer season. And therefore, the outbreaks, they are more frequently been reported during the rainy season. Disease is more common in high-yielding animals. Already I told and shared that lactating animals, they are more prone. High-yielding animals, they are under stress and therefore they are more prone. When we talk about the morbidity is variable. It varies from country to country, location to location, breed to breed. And in general, the morbidity percentage in cattle is 10 to 20%. But it may range from 2% to 45%. I have come across with one reference indicating even 80% occurrence of LSD in a cattle. In buffalo, the incidence already I shared that it is very less, and it is not more than 1.6%. In Maharashtra, the outbreak which has been reported in the month of April, the incidence recorded was 12.43%. As regards the mortality is usually less than 5%. But one researcher has reported mortality as 30%. But most of the workers, they are reported the mortality less than 5%. In a recent outbreaks which have been recorded in our country, particularly in indigenous animal, we have experienced mortality less than 1%. Very rarely, the Indian animals or indigenous animals, they have died because of LSD. The disease is considered as economically important because it is reducing the milk production. The course of the disease is 3 weeks, and during this period, there is a reduced milk yield. Animal loses body weight. In cows, there is a retarded growth. In the case of the females, there may be in anestrus. These pregnant animals, they may abort. Some animals, they show the lameness, and therefore there is a loss of drop power. But one interesting and important, you see, the thing is that the disease is characterized by a permanent damage to the height. And this reduces actually the commercial value, market value of our animals. Indirectly, the losses stem even from restrictions on a cattle movement and the trade. So this is a viral disease, everybody knows. This is a viral disease caused by a Capripox virus belonging to the family Poxviridae. This is a double-stranded DNA virus. It has got antigenic similarity to that of sheep and goat pox virus. So LSD is closely related to sheep and goat pox, and mainly with the goat pox virus. LSD, sheep pox virus, and the goat tissue pox viruses, they cross-react serologically. This virus is very much resistant to the environmental conditions. It is susceptible to 65 degrees Celsius for 30 minutes. It can be inactivated at this temperature for 30 minutes. It survives in the skin at minus 80 degrees centigrade for 10 years. And in infected tissues at a 4 degrees centigrade for months. It is susceptible to the extreme alkaline and acidic pH. It is susceptible to the different types of the disinfectant, particularly formalin, 1% formalin, and 2 to 3% sodium hypochlorite solution, which is nowadays used as a very good, you can say, the disinfectant during this COVID period. This organism is susceptible to sunlight and detergent, but survives for a very long period in dark environmental conditions, particularly in the animal sheds. This particular disease is a vector-borne disease. It is primarily a vector-borne disease. It is spread by arthropods or the vectors, particularly the biting flies, Stomoxys calcitrans, that is a stable fly. But any biting fly can transmit this disease mechanically. So even Stomoxys transmit this disease mechanically. Culicoids, mosquitoes, they can also transmit this disease. Some workers have also reported that the ticks of the Ixorid species, even a Rhipicephala species, they can transmit this disease from healthy to infected to healthy animal. So primarily it is considered as a vector-borne disease, and therefore its spread is very rapid. And these flies, particularly the biting flies, they can fly for a long distance, and therefore they can spread the disease very rapidly. And the new pockets, even 50 kilometers away from you can say the particular pocket, can show the outbreaks. Another thing, always there is a question in the minds of the farmers as well as the veterinarians whether this disease is transmitted through direct contact. So this disease may be transmitted, but this disease, this route is very ineffective. It is very ineffective, less chances of spread through direct contact. As far as the natural matting or EA is concerned, this may act as a route of infection for females. But again, there is a rare chance. Infected pregnant cows are known to deliver the cows with the skin lesions. So transplacental transmission has also been reported, but it is again rare. Suckling cows, yes, it is very common. Suckling cows may pick up infection through milk or from a teat lesions. So here you can see this picture, and I've seen this disease in several suckling cows. Virus is present in the cutaneous lesions, particularly the scabs and nodules. They contain a large concentration of the virus. Then virus can appear in the saliva, nasal discharge, milk, and semen. It has been excreted. But mainly the virus survives in a dried crust or desiccated crust up to 35 days. And in a saliva or a nasal discharge, the virus can survive for 18 days. This is a schematic diagram given in the FAO manual that how the disease is spread over a short distance or over a long distance. So disease can spread from affected animal to the healthy animal through, you can say, the mosquitoes, then the ticks, flies, and even through the syringes. So syringes are very important. Even through needle, this disease can be spread from infected to healthy animal. The disease can also spread to the animals from far off places. When the animals, they are transported from the affected area to the healthy area. So this affected animal can transmit the disease to the healthy animal directly or indirectly through the flies. So the flies, they may accompany this affected animal and they can reach to the new area and they can spread the disease in a newer area. Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir has rightly pointed out that the disease is having very typical symptoms. The symptoms are very typical, signs are very typical, anybody can diagnose this disease. Nowadays, I have seen even the farmers, they are reporting, even illiterate farmers, they are saying that their animals are suffering from lumpy. So the incubation period of this disease is 1 to 5 weeks. In experimental cases, it was found to be 4 to 14 days. So within a week or so, the signs, they are being exhibited. The fever is considered as a typical sign of LSD, but it may persist for 1 to 3 days. Even in the literature, it has been mentioned that the fever may last for only 6 hours. But here I would like to share my personal experience. In most of the cases in indigenous animals, the body temperature was found to be normal. The febrile phase may be very transient, and we are missing that phase in Indian animals or indigenous animals. But in crossbred animals, yes, the generally fever is observed. In in case of the young cows also, we have been observing the persistent fever, and their fever may persist for 5 days, 7 days, 8 days. This anorexia is evident. There is a drop in milk production in lactating animals. But even as regards the loss of appetite and decreased water intake is concerned, these signs are observed in only febrile animals. The animals which are having a normal body temperature, usually they show nearly normal appetite and normal water intake. There may be slight lacrimation, slight nasal discharge, slight salivation in the beginning, and usually those are watery type of discharges. In a few animals, the necrotic ulcers, they may develop in the mouth cavity or the nasal cavity. Those animals may show the mucopurulent nasal discharge and excessive salivation. Very rarely abortions they have been occurred. These animals may show temporary infertility in the form of anistus. Male animals, permanent infertility has also been reported in the literature. Very rarely death occurs. As far as my personal experience and the experience of several veterinarians from the different states of our country is concerned, the mortality in this disease is very, very negligible. 1 or 2 animals, they are dying, maybe in 1,000 or 1,100 animals. Recovery is rapid if the cases are treated in the initial stage, and recovery period is usually 2 to 3 weeks in most of the animals. Very rarely the recovery period is longer than that. The signs they develop, they follow a typical pattern like a pox. So initially there are nodules, then the scabs are formed. You can here see the red area. Then after removal of the scab, the scar formation will occur. The typical sign is a multiple nodular swellings. Those are 5 to 50 millimeter in diameter. Very small 5 millimeter or big 50 millimeter. The lesions, they usually and initially they appear on the head and neck region or shoulder region, and they may spread to the trunk or abdomen and all body parts. The swellings are the size of the nodule, it varies from case to case. The nodules, they are usually firm, round and raised. They are superficial, and sometimes they are deeper. They may involve the subcut tissue as well as the underlying muscles. Later stage, the ulcers will develop, the scabs are formed, and finally the lesions, they heal by scar formation. Here I would like to show some of the pictures. Here you can see this bullock is showing the LSD lesions, very mild type of the case. You will find a few lesions on the ventral aspect of the abdomen. Here you can see this case showing a moderate to a severe type of you can see the lesions. There are extensive type of the lesions, but the lesions, they are mild to moderate in size. Here you can see the 2 calves. They are showing extensive type of the lesions. Here also you can see a widespread lesions. In this calf also you will find a widespread lesions, and these lesions are very big in size. But here, just I would like to show that this animal is having a few nodules, but these nodules are very, very big in size, nearly 5 centimeter in diameter. They are very thick, they are very nodular, and they are very deep, involving the subcut tissue. So such type of cases we are getting. Here again, another typical sign. The first typical sign I told, that fever. Second is the nodular type of the lesions on the body. And third typical sign that is observed is enlargement of the lymph nodes. Here you can see the right prescapular lymph node is enlarged. Here you can see the left prescapular lymph node is enlarged. Here you can see the left, you can say this prefemoral lymph node is enlarged. Here also the lymph node, left prescapular lymph node is enlarged. Even the submandibular and the parotid lymph glands, they are found to be enlarged. So a lymph node enlargement is a usual feature. This is one of the typical sign observed in LSD. These are somewhat unusual type of the signs we have observed. Here you can see, actually in 1% or 0.5% cases, we are getting such type of the sign. Here you see the cord-like structure connecting the different, you can see the nodular swelling. Here also you can see that there are nodules and these nodules are interconnected. Here also you can see the lymph node and the nodules, they are being connected in a cord-like structure. So in this case also, you will find a nodular lesions which are interconnected by a cord-like structure. These type of the cases are rare, but these type of the cases are challenging for us. These are difficult to manage, difficult to treat. Usually secondary bacterial complications here they occur. I think in these cases there is a lymphangitis. Lymph vessels, they are being enlarged, thickened, and the lymph nodes are being involved. So lymphangitis has not been mentioned in the literature either. So here also you can see again these type of the symptoms are observed in a few cases. So in 4 to 5% cases of LSD, we are getting such type of the symptoms. Here you can see the brisket swelling, and even here you can see the lymph node enlargement and the limb swelling. Here also limb is swollen, brisket is swollen. Here also different breeds, maybe a Ongol or our Golo and Deuni and Kankrij. So in all the breeds, we are getting this type of the sign. And these cases are, again, I have seen, they are difficult to manage, they are difficult to treat. So just 4 to 5%, in 4 to 5% cases, we are getting these type of the signs. And these cases are usually getting confused with the snake bite and the pericarditis. In a few cases, rare cases, you will find the lesions over the muzzle and the nostrils and here again in the lips. So here you can see the ocular lesions are again observed in 4 to 5% cases, and particularly we have seen most commonly ocular lesions in young calves. So they are very common. Nasal lesions, they are very common. Ocular lesions, they are very common in young animals. Even in adult bullocks, we are getting the cases. At least in 1% cases, 0.5 to 1% cases, we are getting the corneal opacity. Here you see there is a corneal opacity in a bullock. Here also you can see a corneal opacity in a bullock with a lacrimation. Here you can see the cows, the eyes, they are being closed and there is a purulent discharge from both the eyes, and blindness may also develop, opacity and ulcerations may develop. So these type of the cases are complicated in nature. They take a longer time for a recovery. Very rarely we are getting even lesions over the udder. So you can see the nodular type of the lesions over the teeth and udder. The ulcerations, they are formed like a herpes virus mammalitis. Here you can see this is the case from Maharashtra. When the lesions, they were found over the udder, and here again you can see the lesions over the thigh region. So in such type of the cases, usually the mastitis is likely to develop, and there is a difficulty in letting down because of the pain. So how the lesions they develop, you can see. Again, these are complicated type of the cases. I've seen those cases which are not treated, which are not treated initially properly, or which are treated during the late stage. They develop such type of the lesions, and really the owners are worried about these cases. The veterinarians, they have to spend more time for the treatment of these type of the cases. You see here there is a large sized nodule which is being ulcerated. Skin is being sloughed off and bleeding is there. Here also there is a sloughing and bigger lesion. Here you can develop, you can see the lesions. Here on the leg you can see the lesion, and here you can see a bigger, a worst type of a lesion, which is a very deep, and it is because of myiasis, maggoted wound. So when the lesions, they get opened and they become reddish, the flies, they sit and they may lay the eggs, and the maggoted wound is likely to develop. So one has to take care to prevent a maggoted wound formation, because once there is a maggoted wound formation, that case will take a longer time for the recovery. In buffaloes, we have recorded rarely the cases, very few cases. Even the veterinarians who have attended a large number of cases, they reported me that the disease is very, very rare in buffaloes. Maybe 1 or 2 cases in 1,000 animals. So such a rare incidence is there. PM, I didn't get opportunity to see PM because in India the mortality is negligible, particularly in Indian animals. But on PM examination, you can find the ulcerative type of the lesions in the mouth cavity, in the trachea, even in the abomasum, in the intestines, esophagus, and you see upper respiratory tract, the lower respiratory tract, as well as the GI tract, the ulcerative type of the lesions, nodular type of the lesions they develop. And that is again a diagnostic. As far as the diagnosis is concerned, in my opinion, diagnosis is very easy. Diagnosis of this particular disease is very easy, and it has to be made based on the history of an introduction of a new animal from you can say the affected area. And as far as the clinical signs are concerned, fever, multiple nodular swellings, lymphadenopathy or a lymph node enlargement, and sometimes the swelling over the legs and the brisket. But in my opinion, multiple nodular swelling, that is the most characteristic sign which is observed in almost 100% cases. Maybe fever may be observed, high fever may be observed in 10% cases, mild fever may be observed in 20 to 30% cases. In indigenous animals, in 50 or more than 50% cases, the body temperature was found to be normal. So this point needs to be remembered. As far as the lymphadenopathy is concerned, it is also considered as one of the typical signs. But the lymphadenopathy or a lymph node enlargement varies from case to case. And as far as the brisket swelling is concerned, it is observed brisket swelling, lameness, or the swelling over the limb is observed in 5% cases. Coronal opacity is observed maybe in 1 or 2% cases. Hematologically, the leukopenia is a characteristic, and thrombocytopenia is also characteristic. And you all know that these are the characteristic features of the viral infections. On biochemical examination, total serum protein is elevated because of reduced water intake. In febrile animals, glucose level may be reduced, particularly in anorectic animals. Otherwise, these values may remain normal. The GHS values, they are decreased. There are elevated levels of the lipid peroxide. So the parameters which indicate oxidative stress, they are elevated. So it is indication that LSD increases oxidative stress in animals. So this point is very important from treatment point of view. The disease is confirmed by RT-PCR. And you all know that it needs to be confirmed in India at National Laboratory situated in Bhopal. The sample collection, blood needs to be collected for CBC in a EDTA, and again for serum it can be collected. But blood needs to be collected in EDTA vials for RT-PCR as well as for CBC. But this is found not much good sample for RT-PCR for the reports and the results are concerned. The ideal sample, the best sample is a skin lesion, the fluid from the nodule or the skin swab, or that is the best sample. Collect the skin biopsy from skin nodules or scabs, 2 to 4 in number, preferably from upper body part. So where there will not be much, you can say, the contamination. You'll have to collect it in a PBS, that is phosphate buffer saline, with a little antibiotics. Then the nasal, ocular or salivary swabs can be collected, but the nasal swab is the best. Again, next to that, you can see the skin scab, the nasal swab is a better sample. Semen should be collected in a breeding bulls to rule out the possibility or to confirm the disease. This is the format for sample submission. So sender's details, they are to be filled up. Specimen details, they need to be filled up, and the specimen collected. The transport of samples needs to be transported to the national laboratory situated in Bhopal within 2 to 4 days by a special messenger, through a special messenger. The samples must be provided with adequate amount of the material like ice packs. It needs to be transported on ice to prevent the deterioration. It is important. Important to maintain a triple layer packing. So this is again very important. This disease needs to be differentiated from the several diseases. Pseudolumpy skin disease or bovine herpes virus mammalitis. So in bovine herpes virus mammalitis, usually the lesions are seen on teat, mainly on the teats, very rarely or even on udder. In buffaloes, the lesions mainly they are seen on the teat. There is a sudden onset of swelling of the teat, and there are ulcerative lesions over the teat. Usually, there are no lesions over the body. So this is the in this way we can differentiate. In a pseudo cowpox also, the lesions they are restricted to teat. No lesion over the body, and the lesions are different. They are not nodular in nature. Yes, always insect bites or urticaria gets confused with the LSD. But here I would like to share that in an insect bite, the nodular lesions, they are not very firm. The lesions, the skin lesions or cutaneous nodules, they are not very firm, and their size varies. Their size varies greatly. So there may be larger flocks, and they are more edematous type in nature. And you all know that the swellings, they get reduced very rapidly also. And these cases give very good response to the antihistaminic. Maybe within 6 hours to 24 hours, the lesions, they will subside. So this is the criteria which I use to differentiate from urticaria. Generally, I used to advise farmers wherever I suspect cases for urticaria, I advise the field veterinarians to give just antihistaminic and see the response. If there is no fever and lymphadenopathy and only there are lesions which are indicative of an insect bite or urticaria, and then we used to give the antihistaminics, and the cases they respond very nicely. Bovine papillary stomatitis, it is again a viral disease. Again, the lesions they are restricted to mouth cavity in muzzle and muzzle region or muffle region. FMD, the lesions, the diseases which are characterized by ulcerative type of lesions in the mouth cavity, they needs to be differentiated. Number one, FMD, then bovine malignant catarrh, and the bovine viral diarrhea. These are the three diseases of bovines which are characterized by ulcerative lesions in the mouth cavity, and they needs to be differentiated from LSD. But just on the basis of presence or absence of nodular type of the lesions, we can differentiate these diseases. In FMD, there are no cutaneous lesions. In bovine malignant catarrh as well as bovine viral diarrhea, there are no cutaneous lesions. Only mouth lesions are present. But in LSD, you will find cutaneous nodules, cutaneous lesions, plus in the ulcerative type of the lesions in the mouth cavity. Another disease which needs to be differentiated, that is demodicosis. Demodicosis cases we have seen particularly in the young animals, heifers we have seen, and generally the lesions they are restricted to face region. Here also you can see the lesions over the face region and neck region, and sometimes they may extend to the shoulder region. These lesions are very typical. They grow slowly and they remain for a longer time. Scabs are not formed. And the lesions they mature. And if you squeeze these lesions, then generally the pus will come out. And if you prepare a smear of that pus, then you will find thousands of Demodex mites. Thousands of Demodex mites may be in the pus smear. So demodicosis is very easy to differentiate from LSD. These cases give good response to again ivermectin like preparations. Ringworm needs to be differentiated, but here I would like to share in ringworm there are no nodular lesions. You can see the whitish asbestos like roughly circular type of the lesions. They are seen over the face region or the neck region, and they may spread to the other body parts. Cows are more susceptible and lesions are not elevated above the skin. Very typical, very different types of the lesions are found in the ringworm. I don't think there should be any confusion for anybody about the ringworm. Onchocerciasis, again the dermal type of the lesions they are seen over the ventral part of the body in hypoderma as well as onchocerciasis. And these type of the cases they respond respond to the, you can see the ivermectin. These lesions, they develop slowly, they remain for a longer time. There's no fever, there's no lymphadenopathy, and these cases respond to the ivermectin preparations. I am of the opinion that the cases of LSD needs to be differentiated from bovine ephemeral fever as well as thalidosis. Bovine ephemeral fever is characterized by a fever, lameness. So whenever lameness is there, we will get confused with the LSD. But in bovine ephemeral fever, there are no cutaneous lesions. There are no cutaneous lesions. Fever, stiff gait, and lameness is present, and in generally recovery within the 3 days. But in LSD, the recovery takes a longer time. You cannot expect an excellent recovery within 3 days or so. And in LSD, there are cutaneous lesions. In thalidosis also, there is a fever, persistent fever. And one interesting and differentiating feature, that anemia is present. Mucous membranes are pale. Mucous membranes are pale, and CBC will indicate low hemoglobin and PC values. So I am of the opinion that one should not face difficulty in making differential diagnosis of thalidosis even from LSD. Yes, rarely in thalidosis, cutaneous lesions may develop, and in those cases we may face difficulty. But there, I would like to share that in thalidosis, anemia is characteristic, but in case of LSD, the HbPC values are usually normal to slightly elevated in cases of dehydration or in a febrile type of the cases. So in this way, we should differentiate LSD from the several other diseases of animals. Now, how to treat the cases of LSD? This is a very important part, therapeutic management. Everybody knows that this is a viral type of the disease, and there is no specific treatment for this disease. But I'm very happy to share that although there is no specific treatment for this disease, the cases can be very effectively treated by adopting a standard symptomatic type of management based on clinical science. I have seen in 80 to 90% cases, there is excellent recovery if the cases are treated initially and continuously for 5 days. So we will get a recovery in 80% cases. Those cases which are presented somewhat in a late stage, or the treatment is discontinued, or incomplete course, or in case of incomplete course of the treatment, complications will occur, and whenever complications occur, we face great difficulty in managing those cases. So the treatment protocol, we have developed 2 to 3 type of treatment protocols we have developed, and we are using in cases based on the clinical science. The administration of antibiotic for 5 to 7 days. Enrofloxacin can be very effectively used. This is the cheapest antibiotic, in my opinion, which can be effectively used for the treatment. The another amoxicillin, cloxacillin preparation, they are also better. Streptopenicillins can also be effectively used. So in general, Enro, amoxicillin, cloxacillin, streptopenicillins, they can be used. Ceftriaxone also can be used. But I am of the opinion, if we can treat the cases with Enro, why should we go for somewhat costlier antibiotic? As far as ceftofurtazole, specifically, I would like to share that the cows, particularly the cows, are a complicated type of the cases, or the cases which are exhibiting the signs of nasal discharge, coughing, sneezing, means particularly the signs of pneumonia. They should receive ceftofurtazobactam. I have managed so many cows, managed cases of LSD in a cows with ceftofurtazobactam. This can be very effectively used. Then in case of pyrexia, give meloxicam plus paracetamol. So in 10 to 20% cases, you have to give meloxicam plus paracetamol. But in general, in 70 to 80% cases, paracetamol is not required, and just a plain meloxicam is sufficient. You can go for a flunixin, you can go for a tolfenamic acid, no problem. Any NSAID can be used. But here again, I would like to share that meloxicam is the cheapest NSAID and safest NSAID at present. And therefore, I recommend this particular meloxicam for 5 to 8 days. But in cases which are situated at far off places, the cases which cannot be managed regularly, So we'll have to go for a long-acting type of preparations like a tolfenamic acid. So you can give tolfenamic acid 4.4 milligram on a first day, maybe after maybe third or fourth day, and like that 7th day. And along with this even a tolfenamic acid, you can choose a long-acting enrofloxacin, which can be given at a 48-hour interval or 72 hours interval. So that type of a combination therapy, antibiotic as well as this NSAID therapy can be effectively used where we cannot attain the cases regularly. Administration of NSAID with ceratopeptides can be used. And generally, I am recommending and using NSAID with ceratopeptides preparations in chronic cases of lameness or having a joint swelling or limb swelling. So in those cases, we can advise NSAID with ceratopeptides bolus maybe for 5 to 8 days as a follow-up therapy to NSAID which has been used initially for 5 days. And even there are some NSAID preparations in the market, which there are preparations in the market which contain nimesulide or meloxicam plus ceratopeptidase with vitamin E and selenium. That type of preparations can also be used. Antihistaminic preparation should be the component of our treatment protocol. In each and every case, we should give it, with being a skin disease or a cutaneous disease. Chlorpheniramine or pheniramine malate, it needs to be continued for 5 to 7 days. Here this 5 to 7 days treatment is sufficient for 80% cases. But for 10%, 5% cases, you see the extended treatment is required. Parenteral multivitamin therapy is also very important. In general, B complex can be used, but I advise generally a single dose of vitamin A, D, E type of preparation, oily type of preparations in a full doses. At least a single dose can be given. It will improve the non-specific resistance of the animal. Liver tonics can be given, but that is optional. But vitamin A, single dose of vitamin A and vitamin E and B complex on a maybe regular basis. Vitamin E, selenium injections, they can be given by subcutaneous route. Even there are some preparations available in the market which contain oral preparations available in the market containing vitamin E, selenium. Those can be given for 5 days. But a single dose of vitamin E and selenium is sufficient to relieve the oxidative stress and boost the immunity. As an alternative to vitamin E and selenium, levamisole injection can also be used at the dose rate of 2 to 3 milligram per kg body weight. So 10 to 15 ml of injection levamisole or levamisole can also be given. I'm of the opinion that at least a single dose of immunomodulator should be given in each and every case. That will prevent the complications. Then as for the diuretics are invariably not required. They are required only in 2 or 3% cases where there is a brisket swelling or wherever there is edematous swelling of the limbs. So in those cases, diuretics can be used for 3 to 5 days, maintaining the hydration of the animal. Water intake should be maintained. At the same time, usually we will have to take care. But yes, diuretics, they prove beneficial in those cases. Now there is a big question mark about use of corticosteroids. Some veterinarians, they are using it even in high doses. Whether to use or not to use. Generally, I don't use. Very rarely I use corticosteroid. Only in the worst type of the cases, particularly in the cows where pneumonia is severe and the condition is worst, you should go for corticosteroid. Otherwise, we should avoid corticosteroid because everybody knows corticosteroids are immunosuppressants. You know immunosuppression, and already there is leukopenia in case of viral diseases. So we should avoid. Wherever required in serious cases, we can use. Magnesium, glycerin pest also I have tried in some cases, particularly the cases which are showing a limb swelling, they are challenging type of the cases where the joints are swollen, limbs are swollen, and swelling is not getting reduced with NSAID, lameness is there. So in those cases, I'm advising magnesium glycerin pest. Just a magnesium sulfate powder is to be mixed with the glycerin, and that is to be coated or applied over the swelling. That will remove the moisture and reduce the swelling. This proves beneficial. Simplest treatment we can advise to even farmers. We can advise any preparation containing NSAID and ceratopeptides by oral route and magnesium glycerin pest locally. We are also getting corneal opacity, maybe in a 0.5% cases. but in adults as well as cows we are getting. So those cases needs to be managed, and generally we are managing the corneal opacity with a good eye drops. Eye drops containing antibiotic and steroids, those can be used. Uh, those needs to be instilled in eyes every 2 hours, maybe 2 to 3 drops every 2 hours. At least 8 to 10 times we'll have to instill the drops, then we'll get a beneficial result. Alternative to this, or as an you can say combination, we can use gentamicin 0.5 ml and dexamethasone 0.5 ml, and that can be given by a subconjunctival route. And when this type of the treatment is given for 5 days, definitely the corneal opacity gets reduced. At the same time, we have to continue the antibiotics by parenteral route in order to reduce the infection. Usually the corneal regions, they are responsible for the corneal opacity. Sometimes even the lacrimation is there, purulent discharge is there, flies may seed, animals may pick up the infection, and that could be the reason for even a corneal opacity. Usually secondary bacterial invaders, they are responsible. So washing the eyes, so eye wash with 1% boric acid solution, followed by installation of drops and subconjunctival administration of injectable preparation, that will definitely help in a good recovery. Wound management is also required. In some cases, there are bigger wounds, ugly type of wounds, and those wounds needs to be managed. So first and foremost thing, we should prevent the formation of wound, maggoted type of the wounds. Wherever there are scab formation, when scab slumps, wherever there is a mild bleeding and redness is there, we should advise the animal owner any herbal spray, that is a fly repellent type of the spray. If it is being sprayed twice daily, no maggoted wound, no, I can say the exaggeration of the wound. I have seen if the cases are treated in the beginning, maybe on a day first or day second, if we start the treatment, the scabs will not be formed and the wounds will not be worst. So even the lesions, they may subside very efficiently, very effectively within 5 to 8 days. So we should create awareness among the animal owners about the treatment of animal in the very, very beginning. That is what required. In some cases, there are mouth lesions. Ulcerative type of the lesions will develop in the mouth cavity, and I have managed one case for 20 days. So those lesions are very worst, and animals are unable to masticate, unable to chew, unable to even prehab the food material. So in those cases, you will have to give mouthwash with PP lotion, and we'll have to apply boroglycerin, mouthwash twice daily, and boroglycerin maybe 3 to 4 times daily, and give liquid type of the food, give soft type of the feed, or a succulent type of the grass to these animals. Definitely that will help in a rapid recovery. So we can manage the different types of the complications which are occurring in you can say the LSD cases. But I'm again and again sharing my personal experience. If the cases are treated in the beginning, we can avoid the complications, and in 80 to 90% cases, the recovery occurs within 5 to 7 days. Excellent recovery. Lameness cases, they may persist for 1 month, 2 months also. But these cases occur usually again in the animals which receive the late treatment. How to prevent? Now we are coming to the end of this particular webinar, and I would like to throw some light on the prevention and the control of this disease. So here, the first step needs to be taken immediately. Isolate the affected animal. This is what required. But just isolation in the nearby, you can see the room is not sufficient, because it is mainly a vector-borne disease, and therefore the isolation of the animal at a far-off place is required. Then only we can think of controlling this disease to some extent. Otherwise, the vectors will fly from one room to another room, and they will cause the infection. The another important point that is required, whenever any animal is suspected for febrile nodular skin disease, you should not be introduced in affected farm. So this is what required. Then ensure the strict control of animal movement from affected areas to free areas. Not only the animal movement, but human movement needs to be restricted. Human beings, they are culprit. They may carry the infection from one farm to the another farm, and they may spread the infection from one farm to another. And among the human beings, the farmers, you see, and the doctors, particularly the veterinarians, they are likely to spread the disease from one village to another village, one farm to another frame or another farm. Then the vehicles, they should not be allowed, or the vehicles from, whenever you are taking vehicle from one farm to another farm, they need to be disinfected. Cattle market should be closed. That is what required to prevent the spread of the disease. Cattle market needs to be closed. Exhibition needs to be closed. So that needs to be advised. And whenever, particularly in the periphery or within the radius of 10 kilometers. And whenever animal dies due to LSD, very rarely the death will occur. If the case is treated, I'm sure that no animal will die if the cases are treated properly. If at all animal dies, then it should be buried deep, maybe 6 to 8 feet deep by applying lime. Then sanitary measures need to be taken. They are better for they are required for prevention of spread from one farm to the another farm, one animal to another animal, and even it is important from hygienic point of view. We'll have to take, see, the human life is precious. We'll have to take care. Although this disease doesn't spread, it has been categorically mentioned in the different reports from Hawaii that the disease is not zoonotic in nature. But I still advise my colleagues, veterinarians, that we should take care and hygienic type of the care to prevent such type of infection. So we'll have to use the protective clothing when you are handling the case. Use the gloves, wear the gloves. You see the goggles and the cap and aprons. And whenever see you are going to the next farm, the sterilize and disinfect all. You see all the equipments and all these things. Even the vehicle needs to be sanitized by using the sodium hypochlorite. Even the sanitization of the farm needs to be carried out with the sodium hypochlorite. Everybody knows now sodium hypochlorite, we are using it during this COVID period for sanitization and sterilization. So that is to be used on the farm as well as on the vehicles and inanimate type of objects. The vector control is most important. I already mentioned that this is a vector-borne disease, primarily a vector-borne disease, and therefore we have to prevent the spread of the disease by controlling the vectors. So we should reduce the formation of vectors on a particular farm by maintaining the cleanliness. You know, if there is a cleanliness on the farm, the vectors will not be, you see, the multiply. There is a need to dispose of the dung. You see, you know that the flies, they lay their eggs on the dung, and the next stages, maybe a larval stages, they are formed, and the flies, you can see their life cycle is being completed. And therefore, the disposal of the dung, proper disposal of the dung is very important. Here I have shown that the dung needs to be covered. Actually, dung should be disposed at a far off places from the farm, but if at all the peat is very nearby to the farm, then it should be covered. It should be covered with the gunny bags, you know, these plastic bags or polythenes. Fill up cracks and crevices. You know, the cracks and crevices, these are the places where ticks, they hide and they lay their eggs. And therefore, cracks and crevices, they needs to be closed, and there needs to be burned. The sterilization of the shed should be carried out by using the flame gun. There should be a sufficient sunlight and ventilation in the farm. When there is a sufficient sunlight, when there is a good ventilation, usually the ectoparasitic problems, they get reduced. So these are the measures which we'll have to take to prevent and or the multiplication of the you see the ectoparasites. For controlling the parasites, again, we should use the insecticides, maybe a herbal type of insecticides, or maybe a chemical type of insecticides. Deltamethrin can be used, amitraz can be used. Their sprays on animal body as well as in the animal shed, they should be carried out. Herbal sprays, they are available in the market. Those can also be used on animal body or even in the animal shed for prevention, for the control of these vectors. Ivermectin, I'm of the opinion that it is better to give a single dose of ivermectin to in contact animals as well as affected animals. That has really helped, you see, in the actual clinical cases. Ivermectin helps in controlling the ectoparasites, and thereby helps in prevention of the spread. So that can be used even indirectly. The actually the facts as far as the ivermectin, those have not been established, but during corona also we have heard about ivermectin that that can prove useful. And even in animals, I have come across with the report that in a fungal infection also the ivermectin has been used, and indirectly those authors and researchers, they have reported that indirectly it may help in boosting the immunity and thereby uh, helps in the improvement of the case. So these are the indirect effects, but not established. But the established fact is that this particularly ivermectin controls the ecto as well as endoparasites, and thereby reduces the stress on the animal, and thereby definitely helps in the rapid recovery. The herbal type of preparations can be very well used for the control of even the ectoparasites. Even the ethnoveterinary medicine practices, they have been recommended for the management of cases of this. So this is the neem seed kernel, how it can be used. I will share these slides. Yes. The last and the most important, everybody asks how to prevent the disease, because the vectors, it is a vector, being a vector borne disease, it is really a great really it is very, very difficult to prevent the spread of disease from one area to another area, even after taking all quarantine type of the measures, all strict measures. It is rather difficult. So vaccination is the best policy for prevention and the control of this particular disease, and this has been used in African countries. Three types of the vaccines, they have been recommended by OIE. So homologous live attenuated virus vaccine, LSD Nithling virus vaccine. So that vaccine has been recommended, and this is being manufactured by one of the renowned international company. But that vaccine is recommended for used in the African countries, and where the this vaccine is proved useful in controlling the disease. The two alternatives they have been given for this, CPOX vaccine, as well as Kenyan CPOX vaccine, as well as the goatpox vaccine. And some researchers, they have proved that goatpox vaccine is very effective in prevention of LSD. Even CPOX vaccine also works. But most of the researchers, they are of the opinion that goatpox vaccine is better, having a better efficacy in a prevention of LSD animals. So in India, we are using the goatpox vaccine. So this is the strain which is recommended by Government of India, the Uttarkashi strain. This vaccine is a safe and this has been tried and used in thousands of animals in our country at present. The many veterinarians, they have shared their personal experience with this vaccine also. So currently they are vaccinating. Earlier also they have vaccinated, and this vaccine is found to be useful. So the dose of goatpox vaccine is 1 to 2 ml. Actually recommended is 1 ml, but according to the manufacturer, 1 ml is the dose for goat, and it's better to use 2 ml. So I have discussed this with the R&D cell of this particular company, and they're of the opinion that 2 ml will be the better. But even with 1 ml, many of the field veterinarians, they have got a good research. The age at first vaccination is 3 to 4 months. That is the age at first vaccination. Then that vaccination needs to be carried out only in healthy animals. Affected animals should not be vaccinated. That is the point. And again, the vaccination is to be carried out in the animals within the radius of 5 kilometers. So ring vaccination needs to be carried out so as to restrict the disease to that particular area. So outside 5 kilometers, there is no need to go for a vaccination. If we can, you see, ban the markets and the transportation of animal from the affected area to the healthy area. If we ban the movement, then this ring vaccination will restrict the disease to that particular area only. So healthy cattle, they need to be vaccinated. Then Always the field veterinarians and the farmers, they ask that whether this vaccine is safe in pregnancy. See, LSD Nithling vaccine, uh, which is being used in the pregnant animals also. As for the goat pox vaccine, which is being used in different countries, and particularly as far as the India is concerned, this goat pox vaccine, Uttarkashi strain, is found to be safe in goats, but it has not been tried in pregnant cattle. And at present, the reports about the safety of this particular vaccine in a pregnant cattle, they are not available. But in general, this vaccine is safe in goat, so hope it is safe in pregnant cattle. Well, the field veterinarians, they will have to weigh the pros and cons and the advantages and disadvantages, and accordingly will have to take the decision. Sometimes, you see, by taking a small risk, we'll have to go for a vaccination, because abortion may occur in 1 in 10,000 animal, maybe in a pregnant animal with the live attenuated vaccine. So that type of a minor risk can be taken, and that type of awareness can be created amongst the animal owners. But as far as the practical experience shared by different field veterinarians, the abortion has not been recorded in any of the pregnant cattle vaccinated with goat tissue, goat pox vaccine. So this is all out about the goat pox vaccine. I have tried my level best to, you see, address the questions raised by most of the field veterinarians and the farmers from the different parts of the country for the last 6 months, and that took particularly for 1 year since October 2019. I'm in touch with the several veterinarians from the different states in the country. Personally, I have gained some experience, and I have gained experience through the different veterinarians from the different parts of country in the different breeds, and that I have shared with all of you. I think I have tried my level best to address the, you see, the doubts and questions. Even then, if there are doubts, there are some questions, I will try my level best to, you see, clarify those. Thank you. Thank you, Alembic, for Alembic Pharmaceuticals for making this platform available, and as well as for publicizing this particular, giving publicity to this webinar within India as well as outside India. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. On behalf of the MAPSU, PJVS, Alembic, I am very much thankful for delivering highly informative, knowledge enriching webinar. Now, I am very sure this will help in better therapeutic management and prevention of this LSD in the bovines, not only in the Indian scenario, but at global level also. Once again, I am thankful on behalf of the organizer, sir. Thank you so much. Now I request Dr. Santosh Shinde, sir, to take some queries which has been arised by the participant, and so that will be answered by Dr. Bikani, sir. Dr. Shinde, sir, please.
Sir, we are displaying some of the question on the screen, so you can take the questions. Dr. Naresh, please.
Yes, sir.
Not visible.
Is it visible, sir?
No. Yeah.
There are so many questions from the field veterinarian, out of which we have listed few of them, which are much more relevant to the field and can be given quick guidelines by our expert, Dr. A.U. Bikani, sir. So the first question is to how to differentiate
I will
between
read.
lumpy skin
Dr.
disease.
Naresh.
Yes, sir.
So,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Questions are visible. I will read and answer. Right.
Yes, sir.
Okay. How to differentiate between lumpy skin disease and pseudo cowpox, as the lesions are localized to udder? This has been already answered. In case of the pseudo cowpox, the lesions are restricted to only udder and teeth. Here, the lesions are generalized. Why LSD is more severe in native breeds as compared to crossbred cattle? Your expert opinion, and Dr. Suresh. See, the LSD is not severe in native breeds. LSD is severe in crossbred cattle. LSD is severe in crossbred cattle. As far as the Indian scenario is concerned, the disease has been recorded mostly in the areas where the native population is more or indigenous population is more. In my opinion, one of the reasons is Indian cattle, they are being grazed, whereas the crossbred animals, they are stall-fed. So we have seen that in stall-fed animals, the incidence is quite less because stall-fed animals are very well managed. They are not coming in contact with the other animals. Grazing animals, they are more, being exposed. That is the reason they are being exposed to even ectoparasites. Management practices followed by our poor farmers from the rural area who are maintaining the native type of cattle or Indian type of the cattle. Definitely, the standard of management, standard of nutrition is different for our Indian cattle. This could be the reason, and therefore, even in Maharashtra, we have recorded very high incidence of the disease in the native cattle. But that doesn't mean that the crossbreds are resistant. In my opinion, wherever the disease occurred in a crossbred, yesterday I received one case, a severe case of LSD, even from Karnataka. Received the picture or a photograph. In crossbred, the temperature is high. Always temperature is high. Lesions are severe, and the recovery period is longer. So, in my opinion, crossbreds they are more vulnerable to this LSD. Although the incidence in Indian scenario is less in the crossbred animals. To control LSD spreading, goat pox vaccine is used. Why not cow? Cowpox vaccine is not available. In India, goat pox vaccine is available. But the most important, the goat pox, sheep pox, and LSD, they belong to the same, genus. And these three viruses, they are antigenically similar. And therefore, the goat pox antigen gives protection against the LSD. So this is the reason. Scroll it, please scroll it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
How to make a successful vaccination campaigning in endemic area, yearly or once in a 2 year. It is not very clear that this goat pox vaccine, how long it provides the immunity. But one thing is sure, the LSD vaccine provides immunity for 3 years. That company manufacturing LSD, Nithlin strain vaccine, is claiming that it provides a protection for 3 years. That means once LSD occurs, the natural immunity will develop, and that will provide the protection. So this year we'll have to work. This year we'll have, and we'll have to develop the LSD vaccine for different countries or different areas also, based on the state. How to make a successful vaccination campaigning in endemic area? Now it is epidemic. So in areas where this disease has been occurred, so affected animals, they should not be vaccinated, and the vaccination should be carried out in the villages which are in the periphery of this, particularly the area where the disease has been occurred. That already I have answered, the 5-kilometer area. That in 5-kilometer area, regular vaccination should be carried out. What should be government policy to handle LSD's unity point of view? Again and again, I'm telling that this disease is prevalent in many countries, even not only Africa, but in Middle East, Southeast also. For so many years, several workers, they have conducted the study, and they have found that this disease is not a zoonotic. Even in India, I have interacted with several veterinarians, several farmers. I will say thousands of farmers I have interacted. No farmer has noticed even 1 or 2 nodules on his hand. So I am still very confident that this disease is not zoonotic in nature. Even then in my lecture, and in view of one article from Egypt, just I have cautioned that we should take care. We should use the gloves, goggles and caps and aprons and everything. And we should take all sanitary measures. We'll have to wash hands maybe with the soap water, maybe for 20 seconds. We can go for, any sanitizer containing 70% alcohol. And we'll have to go for a sanitization of the equipments and inanimate type of objects with sodium hypochlorite type of the solution. So we should not take risk. Human life is precious. Even to the owners, I'm telling, I have seen so many photographs that animals and the small cars with the children's. Even I couldn't come across with any report from any farmer. So there is no need to become a panic about this particular report and the one article which is from Egypt, which is becoming viral in the WhatsApp groups and different media. Still, I believe that that report. Still, that author has reported a co-infection of herpes virus with LSD. Still, I believe that the signs noticed in that particular human beings, they were suggestive of herpes virus. I don't think it is a LSD virus. But still, we should take measures, I believe, and I agree. Is LSD self-limiting disease and without? Yes, the recovery can occur without treatment. It is a viral disease, and animals, even without treatment, they recover. They can recover. But if you give symptomatic treatment, the recovery can be hastened and the complications can be minimized. That is our objective. Next one. Next, please scroll.
Yes, sir. I have scrolled.
Frozen cement straws is a possible. See, there are two schools of thought. In one research article, I have read that the disease cannot be spread. Disease doesn't spread through artificial insemination or natural, you can say, the post. But in general, it has been mentioned, even it is mentioned by Y, that the virus is secreted and excreted through all secretions. So virus is present, presence of virus in the semen has been reported. And therefore, if the virus is present in the semen, then the infection is likely to occur in a people. So we should not take risk, and therefore screening of all breeding bulls should be carried out during this particular outbreak period, and the semen which is free of LSD should be used, or the bull which is free of LSD, the semen from the bull which is free of LSD should be used for artificial insemination. Does transmission of LSD virus through urine, feces, saliva, and nasal discharge? I have not come across with any report about presence of virus in the urine and feces. But yes, it is certainly reported that the virus is present in the saliva, lacrimal fluid, nasal discharge, semen, and milk. So likely, maybe even if the virus is present in so many secretions, may even likely to appear in the urine or feces, because the virus persists in the blood for 6 to 8 days after the onset of symptoms. So when it is present in the blood, likely to be secreted or excreted. But I have not come across with any report indicating presence of virus in the urine or feces. What are the sequelae of LSD? As like FMD. So most important sequelae of LSD, which is observed, that is, you see, this particularly LSD virus causes inflammation of the tendon. It affects the tendon, and that is the reason for a lameness. And the lameness may persist for 2 months, 3 months. The veterinarians who have attended cases, Dr. Amol Gaikwad from Shironcha told me some few days back, she's managing few cases of lameness for the last 6 months. He's of the opinion that lameness may persist. I have come across with one report, a research report and a general article, that lameness may persist and likely to remain as a permanent also in a few animals, in a very rare animal. But within 1 or 2 months, the animals, they recover from lameness. Very good question actually, and the farmers they have, and the field veterinarians they are facing. Any report on a recurrence of LSD in affected animals? No. At present, I have not come across with any report of a reoccurrence. But the lesions, you see, some farmers and the field veterinary, they are reported me, sir, initially there were 2 lesions, later on I could see more. But those lesions were visible. Actually, the scabs, they sloughed up and they became open. So gradually, one by one, the lesions, they become scabby, and the scabs may slough up and the lesions, they may become open. So that is likely. But I think if the vaccine, LSD nippling vaccine, which is being used for last several years, if it is providing protection for 3 years, so I am of the opinion that from natural recovery, whenever there is a natural recovery, there should be a good protection. There should be a good protection. But I have not come across with any, you see, validated type of sound type of report and any information. The next is the Any report? Next, please. Next, please.
No, sir. So these all are the summarized questions which we have shortlisted. There are a few many, but that can be mailed to you, sir. These are the much more field relevant questions which will be asked by the field veterinarians. Thank you very much, sir, for your excellent presentation, which is practically giving and diagnosing tool to the field veterinarians, and answering to their queries through your expert opinion, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Naresh. Thank you, Naresh, for sharing the questions.
Thank you, sir, for the answering the queries. Now I request respected Professor Dr. N.V. Kurkure, sir, Director of Research, MAPSU Nagpur, to offer concluding remark for this international webinar. Respected Kurkure, sir, please.
Good evening, all.
Good evening, sir.
The pessimistic person always see the difficulties in all opportunities, and the optimistic person always see the opportunity in the all difficulties. And this is a quote by Winston Churchill, and today we are experiencing it. So I congratulate the all optimistic persons, organizers, Dr. Bhikane and Alembic Pharma. They are very optimistic, and they have seen this opportunity in the difficult time of the COVID. It is very difficult to reach 1,200 persons at a time. Physically, really, it is very difficult. Maybe it is for Alembic Pharma or even for Dr. Bhikane. It is really very difficult. But I told they are optimistic people, so they have seen and converted this into an opportunity and reached to so many people. I congratulate the organizers, Dr. Bhikane and Alembic Pharma, and all the MAPSU team also, Dr. Aher, Dr. Sompuar, and our Honorable Vice Chancellor, for having this opportunity. Then it was a wonderful lecture. It was an exemplary overview of the LSD. Few days back, we have listened it for the farmers, but I find it has been well metamorphosed for the technical person. And it was very much rightly points, all the points were discussed about the which were needed by the technical person. So that was a wonderful talk. But just there is another proverb I would say, wishing is not enough, we have to do it. So having a knowledge is not enough, we have to apply it. So all the listeners, those who have attended here today, 1,200 plus participants, they have gained the knowledge today, they have learned something, they have to apply in the field. So wonderful. And so with these words and with this proverb, I once again congratulate all, and I thank Vice Chancellor of KAFSU that they have come and inaugurated our session, given a very nice speech. Because of busy schedule, probably he has left. But I record my thanks to him, and thanks to the organizers and Alembic Pharma, all MAPSU team. Congratulations. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you, dear sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for your concluding remark and gracious presence for this international webinar. Now, I request Dr. Santosh Shinde, sir, to propose the vote of thanks for this international webinar. Dr. Santosh Shinde, please.
Thank you, Ingole, sir. A warm and graceful evening to one and all, and Honorable Bhikane, sir. It is my privilege to propose vote of thanks speech and acknowledge the contribution of those who really work hard to make this webinar successful. On the behalf of all the participants, MAPSU, Alembic Pharmaceutical Limited, myself, Dr. Santosh Shinde, express my sincere gratitude to our Honorable Paturkar sir, Vice Chancellor MAPSU, and today's webinar guest, chief guest, Honorable Dr. Shashindra Nath sir, Vice Chancellor Kerala Animal and Veterinary and Animal Sciences University. Thank you, sir, for taking the time of your busy schedule to be a part of the webinar. I express my sincere gratitude to Honorable Professor Dr. A.P. Somkor sir, DIN Dean, Honorable Dr. N.V. Kurkure sir, Director of Research, Honorable V.D. Aher sir, Director of Extension Training, MAPSU. And I express my sincere gratitude to Honorable Bikani sir for such an informative, applied and practical presentation on lumpy skin disease. Sir, your presentation definitely helped all the participating students, faculty and field veterinarian to treat the cases in day-to-day practice. In future also, sir, we will take benefit of such an interesting and useful session that will upgrade our knowledge so we can serve the society. I would like to thank organizing committee because of which this program is not successful. They made this program successful. The person behind this program to make the successful is Dr. S.P. Wagmare, Dr. Mahesh Ingole, Dr. S.P. Praveen Bankar, Dr. Girish Panchebai to making this webinar successful. Last but not least, I would like to thank all the participants, Alembic Fields